Hello MotoGP fans. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. New developments in Jorge Martín's recovery. The Spaniard underwent 2 further surgeries as his team pushes to guarantee a full, durable return. We break to explain the medical steps, sporting consequences, and the roadmap ahead. The FIM has introduced a new safety rule for 2026. If a MotoGP bike stops after a crash, the machine must be moved to the service road before any restart. Marshals and riders can no longer try to get a stalled bike going at the edge of the circuit. Marc Márquez and teammate Pecco Bagnaia both publicly backed the change. At Yamaha's 2026 launch, Fabio Quartararo delivered a message that mixes loyalty, hard realism, and personal stakes. The V4 project is now a test not just for the factory, but for him, and his words make clear that his patience has limits. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. After a winter of stop-start rehab and lingering symptoms, Martín's camp opted for 2 additional procedures aimed at speeding a dependable recovery rather than risking a half-baked comeback. The choice wasn't cosmetic. Sources say the operations were planned and targeted, performed quietly to minimize distraction and give the rider the best chance of arriving at preseason physically whole. For a rider whose craft depends on absolute upper body control, the calculus was clear: accept short-term downtime for higher long-term certainty. It was confirmed that Jorge Martín had undergone 2 further surgeries, performed discreetly and without prior public announcement. The message is pragmatic: better to stabilize structure now than to chase a fast but fragile return. This wasn't general cleanup surgery. The team altered a previously implanted screw to improve bone contact in the clavicle area. That kind of micro-adjustment can materially change healing mechanics, improving load transfer and reducing the risk of later mechanical failure under braking and heavy side loads. In MotoGP terms, that affects confidence entering corners, the ability to absorb bumps mid-corner, and the endurance needed in long races, all critical to converting speed into results. Specifically, one of the previously implanted screws was modified to improve bone connection, accelerate the healing process, and allow for greater freedom of movement. It's a surgical tweak aimed at giving Martín stable, durable range of motion, not just a cosmetic fix. Aprilia and Martín want him involved in preseason work, but the team is honest about risk versus reward. He'll travel to Malaysia and is training in Andorra, yet the plan is conditional. Sepang presence would be valuable, but if Martín isn't at 100%, they'll hold back. Missing or running reduced minutes at Sepang shrinks the time available to adapt ergonomics, tire work, and electronic settings, especially painful when the bike is still evolving. The pragmatic approach is to accept a compressed testing schedule if needed, then shift validation to on-site decisions rather than forcing attendance. We're not sure if it will be enough for him to be 100% ready for the Sepang tests. But it looks promising, and Jorge will definitely travel to Malaysia. Both manager and rider are clear: there will be no half measures. That stance protects Martín's long-term career value, especially in a market year like 2026, and also helps his mental rehab. Knowing the team won't push him back early reduces pressure and helps rebuild confidence step by step. The 100% or nothing line is a double-edged sword. It prevents risky returns but tightens timelines, yet it's the only defensible strategy for a rider whose future performance depends on full health. It is essential that Jorge gets back on the MotoGP bike with 100% commitment. Not 95%, not 98%, but 100%. Anything else is out of the question. Quick summary: Martín has had 2 discrete additional surgeries, including a mechanical screw modification, intended to improve healing and long-term function. He's training in Andorra and plans to travel to Malaysia, but Sepang availability will be decided on site. The team insists on a full-strength return, not a rushed comeback. Expect further updates from Aprilia after the Malaysia tests. For now, the priority is health, and the roadmap is clear. Fix the problem properly, then race when the body and Jorge are truly ready. The headline is simple: reduce the risk to track personnel. Races are fast and chaotic places, and a rider frantically trying to restart a stalled engine at the limit can put marshals in harm's way as they attempt recovery. The Federation framed the change as a targeted safety measure to remove ambiguity and lower marshal exposure during the crucial seconds after an incident, a rule designed around a single, obvious priority: people before procedure. Minimize the exposure of track marshals to danger. Marc's reaction was pragmatic. He welcomed the rule not as a philosophical shift, but as a practical clarification that makes on-track responses easier to manage. Márquez underlined that the measure is narrowly scoped. It only applies when the engine dies, which preserves the possibility of a quick recovery after minor slides while removing risky ad hoc behavior that can escalate into dangerous moments. His stance gives immediate credibility to the rule because it comes from a rider who's lived the messy reality of crashes and recoveries. I agree, because in the end it's the safest thing to do. Bagnaia offered both a tactical note and a RIA side. On the technical side, he stressed riders now need to train to keep the engine running in certain falls, a tricky balance between clinging on and protecting yourself. That changes the micro-decisions riders make mid-crash. Do you try to save the bike or prioritize getting clear? Bagnaia's comment, half coaching cue, half human honesty, highlights that rule changes don't just alter regulations. They change what riders practice and how teams prepare. I need to grip the bike more. Implementation brings trade-offs. Marshals will have clearer instructions, which reduces split-second guessing, but teams must now weigh the risk of mechanical damage against the strategic advantage of keeping a bike running after a fall. Riders will be encouraged to preserve engine life where possible, but that can expose them to danger trying to hold a sliding machine. Marc acknowledged this tension, arguing that clarity is worth the temporary operational friction because it avoids improvisation that can endanger people. His point is that a firm rule, even if occasionally awkward, is better than a gray one. It's true that sometimes it will be difficult for the marshals, but if the rule says, if the bike stops, you can't get back on, then it's clear. So it's better for everyone. The new restart protocol is a textbook MotoGP trade, marginally slower rejoin times in some scenarios, but a big reduction in marshal exposure and clearer behavior on track. Márquez and Bagnaia's public support gives the rule traction inside the paddock, but expect teams to adapt routines and rider training so that holding the engine running, when safe and possible, becomes part of crash management. The first races under the rule will show whether the balance between safety and competition has been struck as intended. Quartararo doesn't describe his relationship with Yamaha as transactional, he calls it personal. That frames every technical decision and every long meeting. This isn't just a job, it's part of his identity as a rider. When a rider puts it that way, the pressure to see progress becomes emotional as well as professional. For Yamaha, that means development deadlines carry extra weight. When the factory falters, it risks not only performance but also the trust of the man who's invested the most in turning the project around. For me, it's personal to try to get Yamaha back to the top. The single meeting with Max Bartolini was a pivot point. Quartararo traveled, listened and, crucially, felt a connection that turned skepticism into cautious belief. That's the kind of cultural moment engineers and managers crave. A respected rider moving from doubt to buy-in after honest, realistic conversations. It signals that the transformation at Yamaha is not just technical, new engine, aero, but also managerial, a reset in how decisions get made and how quickly ideas are deployed. Max Bartolini is someone with whom I've had a great connection from day one. Quartararo singles out a change in mentality. Stop shelving solutions and start using them. In MotoGP, the difference between months and days can change a championship. He points to a Japanese-style caution being sped up, and that acceleration matters. Quicker adoption of what works, faster iteration, and less bureaucracy. For a rider, this reduces the waiting to win. Frustration and gives engineers a sharper feedback loop. If Yamaha can shorten that loop, they can close the gap to rivals much faster. When something works, we don't wait 2 months to use it, we use it immediately. The bluntest line, Fabio is thinking about himself. After years of commitment, he's clear that his continued future with Yamaha depends on feeling fast and enjoying the ride. This is not a threat so much as a boundary. A top rider needs results to justify the sacrifice. Yamaha's management hears it as both a warning and an incentive. Keep him competitive, and you retain an invested leader. Fail to do so, and the relationship will be reassessed. That personal caveat makes 2026 more than a development year. It's a proving ground for both the bike and the partnership. Right now, I also want to think about myself, my personal future, and my goals. Quartararo's tone is equal parts collaborator and realist. He wants Yamaha to succeed, but not at the cost of his own career. The V4 project now carries technical, cultural and human tests. Sepping and the early races will reveal whether Yamaha can convert new ideas into immediate results, and crucially, whether they can keep their lead rider believing. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!